My immediate left.
So if they want to kick you out of the game, then they start you from the right fullback. That way you are very close to the coach. So any instructions, you get it first. So let me greet you and Mr. Pratt, our sister who went into hibernation after winning power, like Riley said. I hope she will be coming more often.
I will.
Because this was the station that enabled the National Democratic Congress to come to power. You used it to propagate your agenda, and the movement for change will also use it to propagate our agenda, to topple them from power, come 2028. Good morning to your cherished viewers. Senna, you see, the issue of the cedi and the stability, I'm very surprised that it has become too topical at this stage, but once again, you cannot help it than to blame these two leading political parties in this country, the NDC and the MPP. We all know that for the cedi to depreciate, it means demand for the dollar exceeds supply. That is the fundamental rule. If demand exceeds supply, definitely you would need more cedis to be chasing the dollars, and that is how come it depreciates. If the cedi is to stabilize, that means we are also raking in more dollars into the country by way of exports or foreign direct investment. And foreign direct investments would only arrive when there is a renewed sense of confidence in the economy. So that is where we are. There are several factors that one can consider. If you manage your expenditure side of an economy very well, what it means is that you will not have loose monies in the hands of so many people. If you are not expending the money that you have into frivolous projects like building cathedrals, then you can be assured of controlling expenditure. If you are not overexpending on trivial projects that do not exist, like paying $2 million for a sky train that never was, then you can expect the public finances to be managed and managed properly. If you are not engaging the services of companies such as SML to go and collect revenues that are already being done by customs and paying them $1 billion every year, allowing this money to get into the hands of people that are not supposed to get, then you can be assured of controlling expenditure, and by so doing, controlling inflation, and for that matter, controlling your exchange rate. So that is where we are at the moment. I have heard our brothers from the New Patriotic Party side say that the cedi's stability is as a result of what they did in the past. And this whole preaching or gospel or crusade is led by the former vice president and the flag bearer of the party in the just ended elections, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And you rightly said, you also read what his age. I thought his age position was needless, because once the OPM has spoken, whatever the age said was immaterial. So in a nutshell, what they are telling us is that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, his positions or his policies are the ones working today. Is that not the case? And that they say that the idea of go for Forex was actually brought in by Dr. Bawumia. That's why I realized that people don't take us serious. So that the idea of gold for Forex predates even the MPP. The idea that Ghana will be buying gold and then saving it with the Bank of England, which I have disagreed. That why would we have Bank of Ghana and we will be saving our gold in England so that they use it to cushion their economy? So it cannot be true. In any case, when the new Patriotic Party was in power, this policy was there, but the cedi kept surging. And anytime we came here, what was the reasons adduced to the depreciation of the cedi? They gave us two fundamental reasons. And I hope you have not forgotten. And I hope Ghanaians will not forget so soon that we were told that because of Russia-Ukraine war, it was the reason the cedi was depreciated. And why was it depreciated? Because prices of crude had become so expensive on the international market to the extent that we needed more cedis to be chasing the dollar. Now, as we speak, I'm not too sure whether the war between Russia or involving Russia and Ukraine has come to an end. To the best of my knowledge, it is still there. To the best of my knowledge, sanctions imposed on Russia are still persistent. To the best of my knowledge, nothing has changed. In any case, that argument can never hold water because Ghana is a net exporter of oil or crude. And so if the prices of crude were so high on the international market or in the international market, what it meant was that we were also going to benefit as a country from high prices. And that the difference in prices could have cushioned our currency to stabilize it. So that couldn't have been the reason. We talk of COVID. COVID encountered the entire world. So that couldn't have been the reason. Now, you remember in the early days of this administration's taking over, when the cedi showed signs of stabilizing, I don't know how they got this theory that because the United States of America was engaged in a trade war with Russia and the rest of the world, that was how come the dollar was depreciating against the cedi. I didn't understand it because it's a matter of demand and supply. Were they saying that by that singular act of the US, Ghana all of a sudden has stopped trading in dollar? We were still importing crude. We are still an import-dependent economy that every day in and day out we need dollars. So when they realized that that argument couldn't suffice, then quickly they had to run away. You see, when you are a political party, you need to be strategic in how you communicate your message. Because whether we like it or not, this cedi at some point will begin to also depreciate again. That is our economy. It is not rocket science. And so you that is claiming that it is because of your works you did in the past, should the cedi begin to depreciate against the dollar, should we take it that as a result of your policies in the past, that is why it is also depreciating again? We cannot be doing that. So the only mandate that has been given to the Bank of Ghana is for them to stabilize our currency. So if the currency of the government of Ghana is not stabilizing, the only institution that I will lay the blame at their doorsteps will be the Bank of Ghana, by extension, the governor of Bank of Ghana. And that is why if there is any stability, I will not have any difficulty in attributing it to the works of the governor of Bank of Ghana and by extension his management team. And here let me say, Dr. Esiama, you are doing well. Continue doing whatever you are doing, because tomorrow if it starts depreciating, the same mark that is praising you today will be the same mark that will come and bash you. What policy are we talking about? They say gold for oil. Did you ever see any policy read to you concerning the gold for oil? It was a pure scam. And if this government or this administration was that serious, they would be investigating that gold for oil business. How much of gold did we exchange for anyone? Where were we getting the oil from? Who are the middlemen involved in the business? So that we are told. But as usual, politics. In opposition, they will be saying something different. When they come to power, it is a total, we the people of this country have to be begged that oil must work. When you yourself have promised us that Operation Recover all loot. You didn't say some loot. All loot. You expect us to come and beg you to implement it? No way, hell no. And so, Senator, this is where we are. I would rather say that it is the Bank of Ghana that is doing something that is working for all of us. And so the idea that the MPP wants to associate itself to this whole, what do you call it, glory, should be discarded. In any case, if you were to stretch the argument, Senator, that as a result of their policies, then we can also stretch the argument that the MPP took over from the NDC in 2017. Is that not the case? When the MPP took over in 2017, Ghana was already in the IMF. Check MPP's argument over the years. Anytime they are making arguments on the economy and the good indicators, which period do they use? 2017, 2018, 2019. Then they will tell you that but for COVID in 2020, things wouldn't have changed. Now, you came to inherit an economy. And Mr. Believe you me, once you go to IMF, some of these indicators begin to shape because you have been restricted in certain areas. You understand? At that time, they said as a result of their good policies, why didn't they attribute the stability of the economy those days to John Mahama? And I disagree that the NDC would take credit between 2017, 2018, 2019, and so on and so forth. We give a government to anybody with liabilities and assets. Once you take over, whatever happens under your regime is for you. And that is how come today I can look straight into the face of the handling the energy ministry and say, look, you got to work. Why am I not attributing the problems in the sector to the previous administrations? And I will attribute the problems of the sector to the current minister because we know missing cables. People have actually stolen from us that the minister himself told us. Why are they not going after those that stole the containers? This is a slap in the face of the people of this country. And if you are going to stretch the argument that yes, John Mohammed's administration also contributed, then you have to stretch it back and say that indeed Professor May's administration also laid a solid foundation, for which reason it culminated into what John Mohammed did and what the NPP took over. Then you go back and say yes, Professor May also took over from John Ejekun-Kufuor, and that John Ejekun-Kufuor took over from Rawlings, and we have to go back to the days of Azambuda. What are we doing to ourselves? That would be absurdity. So give the credit to the current administration. Whatever happens with this administration is their sole problem. Now, beyond that, Senator, the reason why I said that we are likely to go back to what is if we do not do certain things. You and I know that even toothpick we import into this country. You and I know as an economy or as a country, annually we are told that we import $100 million worth of tomatoes from Burkina Faso. Now the supply is not coming because Captain Traore has established factories converting the raw tomatoes into what? Tomato paste. Interestingly, we imported close to $1 billion worth of tomato paste, listen to me, into this country. When in the 90s we had been treated to slangs from Dr. Prakut, Akumadan tomato. You never heard that word? You heard it? So if we have a place in this country called Akumadan, and for viewers, Akumadan tomato is Akumadan. Forget about these slangs. And Akumadan is in the Ofenso district. Those enclaves, they have lands suitable for the cultivation of what? Tomatoes. So this is where policies must dictate. How best can we, as a country, make sure that the Akumadan that is noted for the production of tomatoes, the Ministry of Agri can move in and help the farmers to grow tomatoes in large quantities so that the $100 million we could have expended in importing these tomatoes from Burkina, even if we have to do half of it, it means we'll be saving what? $50 million in this country. There was a policy of what? One district, one factory. Nobody must discount that policy. That if you are producing the tomatoes there, then it has to go with what? The establishment of factories. So that we can also turn the raw tomatoes into the tomato paste. And if we are importing close to $1 billion worth of tomato paste, and we even half it, to $500 million, that means we still have dollars in this country. These are contained in our great transformation plan, which we explained severally. That import substitution is so crucial for the development of this country. We are importing close to $300 million worth of poultry and Gugofunu, dead poultry from the European Union. I understand you have a policy called. I endorsed it at a point, because it's a good thing if it is going to be implemented and implemented well. What it means is that, yet again, we can have dividends by having the importation of what? Poultry. And once you do that, it means you have enough, or you don't need to exchange more cedis for dollars to be able to import these. We import a lot of vegetable oils into this country, running into several billions of dollars. What does it take? Then again, we need to invest more into vegetable production and add factories to it. It doesn't take much. And also, the cocoa that we have been relying upon, that is giving us headache, just go and buy cocoa and go and sell. We already have off-takers, that it is giving this country headache. At the moment, we are owing close to 32.5 billion in that sector. How can we sell cocoa? Cocoa that already has market. Now we know the sellers. How can we incur a debt of 32 billion? We need to shape it. And in doing so, I would also suggest, as our great transformation plan suggested, that under no circumstance must we go and do syndicated loans outside the country. So that doesn't make sense that every year we go to the international market and borrow $1.2 to $1.3 billion to come and buy cocoa. Do we use dollars to buy cocoa from the cocoa farmers? In any case, COVID taught us that the Bank of Ghana had the capacity to even advance loans to the government of Ghana to the tune of 10 billion. So what it means is that we can even float government bonds to be able to go and buy our cocoa in cedis, so that when we sell it in dollars, we get our dollars here, and then we cushion it, we use it to cushion our currency. But they wouldn't do it because that is where the coefficient is. This go to Europe and America to go and do syndicated loans. The arrangement fees and so on and so forth, people who don't want to. But I believe that if you are doing research, this must be a topmost priority of this administration, so that we don't have to go and borrow dollars to come and buy cocoa in city, just like they have done with the gold board. The concept of the gold board, some of us thought that we will still strengthen the PMMC, but whether you like it or it has come to stay. Now, the most important thing is that we do not replicate the problems with the cocoa board, because it's the same concept, that every gold in this country from small-scale miners is sold to the government of Ghana. In the same way, cocoa is supposed to be sold to the government of Ghana, so that through that we generate the much needed forex. Because gold then will be bought from the small scalers with cedis, and at the end of the day, when the government sells it, it gets the dollars. Pharmaceutical. We expend so much importing pharmaceuticals into this country, at least not less than $700 million. Yet we have pharmaceutical companies in this country. And so it's another area that must be prioritized, so that at the end of the day, the government will not be expending much of our forex to go and buy pharmaceuticals, when we could engage local producers and also strengthen the herbal industry, or the local practitioners, to be able to fill in the gap. So now this is the only way. This is the only way we can ensure the stability of our currency for a long period. For now, there is a renewed confidence in this economy. Take it or leave it. Because what we were treated to in the last 8 years, I'm very surprised that sometimes people feel that 2 million Ghanaians did not vote. I don't know whether they have done any census to give them that indication that Indeed, 2 million Ghanaians are still living. So I can tell you that every weekend. Now, I mean, in those days, I used to go to maximum 4 funerals every weekend. These days, if you don't take care, every minute there is a funeral. There is no 2 million people anywhere. They are dead. People have starved to death. We are talking about 2 million people.
Some have left the country.
Majority have died. Or you don't read obituary of late. They want to create the impression in your mind that there are some 2 million people sitting somewhere, so that they criminally put them into the voting, the voter register for ghosts to come and vote. They are non-existent. They are dead. Why wouldn't people die when there wasn't any job in need? We were told by Dr. Michael Ejekumado, you know him, Kama, that his life was destroyed by Akufo-Addo's administration, and that 800 of his colleagues had left this world because of bad management. So what are we talking about? What are we talking about? That today, because we have short memories, all of a sudden, the former vice president who couldn't speak to economic matters when he was in government is now telling us or preaching economy to us. And said, I want to entertain this. No, we have to be serious. This was the government that gave haircuts to elderly people to the extent that it caused the former Chief Justice, Sophia Akufu, to go into her archives and bring a certain phrase, pin brain. You remember that phrase, pin brain? That people had pin brain to think that it was right for her to sit in the house and not to complain when her investment into bonds was being eroded. So that is where we have been. But you see, we can also not reduce it to the MPP and NDC. I even disagree with the topic. This country is not for NDC and MPP. When you do that, then you narrow the discourse to these two political parties. There are more individuals interested in this country. And we cannot on the altar of some of these things. So, in a nutshell, this is where we are. Let's give the praise to this administration for the stability. It is yes, when the tables turn, they will also have to bear the consequences of whatever happens, so that people will know that they bear the ultimate responsibility for anything that happens under their regime. Other than that, a party in opposition, all that they are looking forward to is to be the center of attraction, where people will revolve. There must be something that will always generate discussions about them, so that by so doing, then they begin to reorganize their base. And that is why I disagree with the NIB and the way they went Rambo style to Adenta Kumi. Who is Adenta Kumi for you to mass up and then go and then arrest Adenta Kumi? What is this? Hey, the security of this country has to be serious. You go to Adenta Kumi's house to go and arrest Adenta Kumi. For him to be released and go and stand at the NPP, we are the new way. Pastor Sangwa. When you could have easily invited Adenta Kumi. Just like the scenes you are creating in Wuntumi's house. The Ghanaian wants to have his peace of mind. And not to be taken through some of these unnecessary, needless ventures. Now, to wrap up with this cedi and dollar thing, you see these foreign banks who are in this country, and the national security must take it very serious. I don't know whether you have observed it. Ever since the cedi started stabilizing against the dollar, you see all of a sudden Absa Bank release a report that by the close of the year, the cedi will be at 14.5. Did you hear from Fitch that it will go back to 15? What do they think they are doing? These are national security concerns. That you are reassuring those that are holding dollars in their homes that do not panic to bring the dollars into the market, because by the close of the year it will be 14. This is a national security threat. When we say national security, it's not just putting on dark shades. These are the real issues that matter. You are outside, you are releasing it to me for me to do what? So that I should not go and then put the... But when indeed the focus of this is to make sure that the economy stabilizes for all of us to do well, we must take a second look at it and deal with some of these issues. I'll end it here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you just join us, we're still discussing the matter of the cedi. Now, this is a comment. Let me just go through a few comments before I go to Dzifa for her views. This one says, how has Ghana's recent engagement with the IMF affected foreign investor confidence in the value of the cedi? What differentiates the NDC's proposed economic agenda from the MPP's when it comes to long-term currency stability? The third question the person is asking, how have global interest rate trends, especially from the US Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank, affected the strength of the Ghana cedis? Vision in Tamale says, how can MPP convince any Ghanaian in his or her right senses to believe that credit for the appreciation of the cedi should not be given to the NDC? You were given a privilege to take care of businesses, then you chose to betray Ghanaians. Instead of you to keep apologizing to Ghanaians, you proceed to provoke us the more by comments you put out there, as if to suggest that our brains were replaced with yogurt. That's Vision who sent that from Tamale. This one says, I'm Toby Boso, Vagadechiababio, says politicians should bear in mind that they can't play with the mind of the citizens. Also, they are putting this nation into a great danger by the way they think the citizens will always be foolish. Besides, politicians should know that they are our children and do not own the resources, rather they are caretakers and must be ready all the time to account for their stewardship. cedi appreciation must be commendable, but accountability matters. Gold for oil must be investigated. Also, if you are out of power, avail yourself to be investigated and stop beating war drums, calling your followers to fight for you. Thanks. Toby, thank you very much for that comment. Alasa Hamdan from Nyohini said the appreciation of the cedi continues steadily. And let's be clear, this isn't due to any so-called gold reserve accumulation. It's the result of the unprecedented gold exports driven by Ghana Gold Board, coupled with tight monetary policies from the Bank of Ghana and responsible fiscal consolidation by the Ministry of Finance. This is real economic leadership at work. Thank you, President John Dramani Mahama, for delivering the strong and stable cedi Ghanaians deserve. I never knew my friend Alasa Hamdan was such a fantastic economist. This one says, Mordecai from 37 said the IGP should transfer the... Okay. Thank you very much for the comment. And then Sne says, Senna, carefully listening to Mr. Solo and looking at Ghana from the little I know, I see that we have mostly the institutions and some systems that should allow us to thrive as a country, be it health, agriculture, and education. Probably we are where we are because of the coefficients like Solo said. This morning, the bus I took from Kanesha to Makola, though I was not going to Makola, they have reduced the fare by 15%. But the true calculation was not reflected in the new charges. For me, this behavior is what makes the good work by others, especially the president, look like nothing. Every bad behavior that goes against good things must be dealt with for proper growth with evident reflection. So, thank you very much, as always, for the comment. Stanley sent this from Brantu Buem constituency. Says, I'm still looking for the right words. In other words, the right adjectives for describing the persona. Okay. Okay. I think he has something else on his mind. Stanley. This one says, good morning. Solomon, keep it up. May the good Lord bless you. Some more comments. This one, Dr. Baumia should stop commenting on economic issues. He should rather concentrate on his newfound field of digitalization. I need no other economic argument or lectures from Baumia. It is enough to know that the cedi is appreciating, that this is doing good to our economy. Jonas sent that one. If you just join us, the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji Alhaji. Welcome. Dzifa.
Sana, good morning.
Good morning.
It's been a long time I've been on the screen and I'm happy to be back. I'll try to be as consistent as possible.
We're all happy to see you.
You're happy to see you too. Uncle Kwesi had to drag me here today, but I'm happy to be back. I miss my friend, Solo, my big boss here. But then, before I start on this CD appreciation, let me just take this opportunity as a baby girl of the NDC to welcome my mother back from her much-deserved break. I think that we're all happy to see her. We miss her so much. That's Her Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana.
Yeah.
We, the NDC, do not like covering up things unnecessarily. Even children get sick. When she got sick, we made it public because we owe that to the Republic of Ghana. We told everybody that she was not well. She had to go for immediate attention. People even said she was dead and said so many things, but we are happy that we are so transparent. And indeed, Ghanaians have seen that we spoke the truth. She's back in good health and is going to continue her job. So we are grateful for God's mercies upon her life. Sarah, let's just go into this game because I'm itching to talk about it. I get so excited when the NPP clearly draws a certain line. That when it is good, it is for us. When it is bad, no, it is your fault. Before I'll start everything, as a politician, I've just sat down these days. I've seen the goodwill that we have started with ever since the 7th of January, 2025. And then it draws my mind back to this Chi adage. You see, agro beswa ifrianapa. So the very initial stages of an issue will tell you whether it's going to go well or not. I'm saying this because we saw how the Akufo-Addo administration started in 2017. From plagiarism to mistakes to whatever, and we saw how it ended. We've seen how John Dramani Mahamad's administration has started. Transparency, strictness, boldness, taking very proper and straight decisions. Decisions that are going to benefit the country as a whole. That is why I say Agrobeswa Ifianapa, because I've seen so much goodwill that is coming forth. So much goodwill in us. The moment the city started appreciating, the first comments that were given by MPP faithfuls was, oh, it's just a 1 month thing. It's going to fall back. It's not feasible. Because, you know, in 2017 down to 2024, all we experienced was some gimmicks. Realize that when there is a lot of backlash on the government, then we'll see the cedi appreciating from 17 cedis to 16 cedis for a month, and then it shoots 3 cedis upwards. And so they thought this was going to be the same situation or a repetition of what they are doing. But unfortunately, it's not. It's a conscious and collective effort by the President of the Republic of Ghana and his team. It's a cocktail of things, majorly centered around exports. Because just within a year, according to the Bank of Ghana's reports, our exports have grown from 5.8 to 9.3 billion US dollars in just 2024 to 2025, as at April 2025. Gold alone is taking about 54% of that. Oil is taking much more, it has tripled. We have cocoa doing very well. And all this is within 1 year. So we'll see something. I heard my brother Solo mentioning the demand and supply of the cedi. So everybody knows this simple economics, that there is so much demand for the cedi. It will help the cedi be stronger. And so if you're exporting, that means there is a lot of demand for the cedi. If we put all this together, you realize that, okay, so the conscious effort of us raising our export gains has contributed to this. Now, our finance minister mentioned something which is also very important, and I realize that a lot of people, even me, never even thought about it, and it's the discipline when it comes to spending as a government. The right choices being made, even when it comes to spending, all contributes that. And so when we sit down and then the MPP now decides to come and brag and tell us why it is it is to their credit that the cedi is appreciating. It's a little appalling, if you ask me. It's a little appalling because everything in the government is supposed to be on a decision-making basis, right to who is the finance minister. And so who should I credit that to? His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Because it's the qualities, the brains behind. And it is not about talking, it's about show working. Now the work is being shown, Sena. Nobody has to tell. For when this cedi started appreciating, the first thing that I said that I heard was people were saying that, oh no, it wasn't going to last. Now they realize that it is consistent and it is moving. And so they are saying, no, but it is us. We did it. We should be credited. To the extent that our former vice president had a program, is it over the weekend or something, and says that, okay, so NDC should mention one singular policy that should be credited or that shows that supported the growth of the cedi. Why? What is singular policy? In which country is one particular item, just one item, responsible for the strength of their currency? So Bawumia now is trying to twitch this whole thing and then, you know, bring it to his side to make it look like he has a hand in it. 8 years in power, and from Mr. Economy to now digital, he refused to even address issues of the economy. Have we forgotten so soon that Bawumia refused to address issues of the economy again because apparently he had no grasp, he had no grip on it? And now he's questioning how. No, it is leadership. It's a solid leadership, bold decisions that are being made that is contributing to the strength of the city, and that is what he should be reminded. Now, if he had any shame as a person, if the former vice president had any shame, he wouldn't even be seen or heard during this period. Is it not so embarrassing that you couldn't do this in 8 years and somebody has done it in less than 5 months, and you have the audacity to be questioning? Okay, NDC, point out what single policy that backed this whole appreciation of cedi. You can't point. And that is what he's doing. I feel that it is all a plot to stay relevant because he has lost his relevance. And we've all heard that he wants to come back running as president, and so he needs to talk about very important economic issues to make him stay afloat and relevant in his political party so that he can win his primaries when it is time. But aside that, he's a shameless man, if you ask me. It's embarrassing. Not even to talk about the fact that, let's not even talk about age. It's intellect, fine. But we are doing what he could never have done. He should have some dignity and keep quiet. That is all I ask of Bawumia. And you get other Ghanaians or NPP supporters supporting him and asking, oh, but it's just 6 months into government, and so we have also contributed to a very large extent as a party. Then why are you not taking responsibilities for other things as well? Other things like the power crisis that started in 2024, beginning of 2024, that was very glaring. Why is the NPP or the opposition trying to make it look like it is our fault when clearly Ghanaians remember that they have mismanaged the energy sector? Why are they not taking that blame? So it is good when it is positive. When it is positive, it's for them. But when it is negative, we should bear the cost of it. I think it is hypocrisy. And there is a limit to what we can take as human beings. There is a limit to what Ghanaians have the time to stomach these days. I pray that as we are seeing so much improvement in the city, we Ghanaians also do our part. And this is a particular subject that I am very passionate about. We've said so much. Who should be credited to the cedi's appreciation? We've said how it has been gained, and we are looking at how to maintain it, to get it as lowest as possible. But there is a canker that is rotten that is beyond politics. Let us be honest. I started by seeing videos online about people in the US and the UK, the diaspora, calling to complain about how strong the cedi was now, because now when they send their dollars, it is small. It's not able to pay up for big things. And it looks like a joke. But I feel it is sheer witchcraft, if there is anything like that. Because this is what every Ghanaian has preached for how long? Since the independence of Ghana. That the cedi needs to be strong, the cedi against the dollar is doing bad, the cedi against the dollar is crippling people's businesses. Now it is strong and we have people complaining. That is number one. Number two, you hear about so kind spare parts dealers telling you that, well, the fact that the cedi is stabilizing doesn't change prices or doesn't automatically change prices. It may take a very long while, or they have to clear their goods first. Who should take this burden? And this is to Ghanaians. This is not even political at all. The same Abosu Okai spare parts dealers that had parties and who did whatever when MPP came to power because they thought that they were going to fly over the roof, got so disappointed, took their support behind MPP, and their singular most important issue is the dollar, the strength of the cedi, the continuous depreciation of the cedi. That has been their problem. This has been addressed in a very beautiful way. We are stunned by the performance of the cedi so far, and they come out and this is what they say. Sana, you have hotels massaging their prices because if they were supposed to be taking $100, the normal 1,500 Ghana cedi, 1,600 cedis is not sufficient for them because they've been charging in dollars and they insist something that is supposed to be illegal. I have a very big problem with why local businesses keep charging and insisting to be paid in dollars equivalent. After enjoying all that because of the continuous fall of the cedi, today the cedi is doing better, and hotels are massaging. You go and it's $100 there. You want to pay $100 equivalent, and they'll tell you, well, but it is 1,500 or 1,600 and not 1,200. Why? Why should it be that? Should this also be the government? Why should it be that you have real estate companies selling houses $100,000, $200,000, and just when the cedi had dropped, before you realize you want to pay for that same price because you know it's $100,000 equivalent, and they've calculated it as 17 cedis for you and say no, they are not charging in dollars again. They are charging this. First of all, why should businesses, local businesses, insist on being paid in dollars? That is the problem. Number two, I do not know a single company or a single society, trade society in Ghana who hasn't complained about the gross depreciation of the cedi since time immemorial. We have experienced this beautiful appreciation that we are expecting to maintain and even to do better, and businesses are cheating us. We are cheating ourselves. I think Ghanaians need to do better. This is up to us, and I do not know if we have to really call the law enforcement to make sure that businesses and hotels and whatever are held accountable for the prices that they charge. Because how then is it going to impact on Ghanaian lives? If the cedi is doing well and businesses refuse to adjust, how then is it going to impact on Ghanaian lives? So you see, there are times where people will come up and then just bash the government, bash political parties, bash politicians, degrade them and scrap them neatly, as though the entire problems of Ghanaians rest on the shoulders of political parties and the government. Today, we are seeing appreciation in the cedi. Beautiful. Everybody says it's right. And Ghanaians, the middlemen, are holding us to ransom. You are not letting go. So the people down there are not feeling the impact of the changes that are supposed to be happening, the changes that are supposed to affect all of us. You have people holding on to their price. They'll tell you that, okay, I bought it at this price at that time. Somebody has to lose something. Somebody has to sacrifice something. You have to adjust. You have to adjust, because if you bought something at the price of when the dollar was about 16 cedis and it's not been sold in a year, are you not going to sell it? Because you get that money and you go and buy that same item again at the price of 10 cedis. Now the dollar is about 11 cedis. So Senna, aside who is going to take credit, and we know who is supposed to take credit, we know who has done this, we know who who has put all these measures in place for us to have a stable economy or a recovering economy at such a fast rate. Today we are recognized globally as one of the few, I think it's one of the first 5 currencies globally that has like bounced back like that. And so for the first time in more than 3 years, we've seen this spike that we've never seen before. I think it's up to us to decide to hold on to something. It's up to Ghanaians. Let's stop being hypocrites. Let's call out people. Let's call out businesses who are trying to cheat us. Let's call out business. And if you're a business holder, please let go. You know, people are they are too engraved in getting extreme profits. There is greediness in the system, and it is only being exposed because of what has happened recently. If not, everybody sits in the comfort of their rooms and want to blame government and politicians for more mishandling the economy. But you realize that the canker is here. And we would also see a lot of the canker when we go into the topic of the floods. So I am happy to say that as such a competent government as the NDC government is going to expose a lot of the rot that the basic citizen, the normal citizen, does every day. And so now mark my words, that a competent government as NDC is going to expose a lot of the rot coming from the grassroots, coming from the normal citizen. Because of how we have had a lot of governments mismanaging the country, a lot of political parties mismanaging the country, or politicians pulling scandals, it covers up that minority, let me say, yes, that fraction of Ghanaians that are actually enabling corruption, enabling rot in the country. We have taken all that blame. But when the country is running as well as it is now, you will see that it will be bare. You will see how corrupt the normal citizen who is not a politician is. We have started seeing it. You will see how corrupt the businessman who has nothing to do with politics or government is. You will see how corrupt the Aboso kind spare parts dealers are. You will see how corrupt the real estate industry is. And you realize that the name corruption that has been attached to government and politicians is a hoax. Corruption lives in our soul and lives in the roots where we come from. It lives in our villages. So even though I'm here today to just, express excitement about how things are going, I also came with one particular message, that this year, Ghanaians are going to witness the corruption of the individual, the corruption of the businessman. We will see more of that than politicians. And then probably we'll have a certain sense of awareness where we'll start working on ourselves. And that will be the biggest liberation for Ghana. That we can work on ourselves and do what is right and make sure that we abide by the laws so that everybody can get a bit of the national cake. Everybody can get a bit of what they deserve. And then we live in a very liberal world. That is where we are going to succeed as a country. This is just the forefront. This is just the forefront. The major job itself is on us. And I'm really hoping that a lot of Ghanaians take it into consideration. That we owe it to ourselves to all support the finance minister, to support the president and the government in making sure that the cedi appreciation extends and affects, or should I say is able to affect everything that we do. We have to make sure that we make changes in our businesses and in our bargains as per what is going on, so that everybody can be liberated from it. And then for all you know, by the end of the 4-year term of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the cedi could go back as low as when he took up. That is, I think, 3 cedi to $1. It can. I think it is possible, Senna. If we do it very well, if in how many months it has left 15 cedis and it's 11 cedis, I think it is possible. But then we cannot do it alone. The government cannot do it alone. The finance minister, Honorable Atuforsen, cannot do it alone. He does it to some extent, and then we take the mantle from there as citizens and spread it down by how we price, by how we adjust our prices, by how we reduce the demand for the dollar. And as I said, I'm hoping that businesses learn from this, know that the cedi is strong enough, and not put all their hopes in charging things in dollars, so they do not meet this bad end. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's nice to have you back. If you were angry that she said that if you are against the appreciation of the cedi, that is witchcraft. Don't have a problem. She's a proud witch herself. Anyway, I'll jump to Alhaji Alhaji.
Yes.
And it's nice to see you this morning, Alhaji. I hope you're well.
Thank you. And your nice shirts.
Thank you.
Dzifa, look at phone. Comrade is listening to us. Pretending to be meditating. Solomon, I listened to you on the radio when I was coming here, and I liked your analysis.
Thank you.
But just to say that they should arrest the criminals. If it means sending battalions of national security men to their houses, they should.
Some of them are
We were harassed in opposition. On this platform, I expressed an opinion. I couldn't sleep. My brother Kosipra had to come to my aid. I couldn't sleep. I mean, I was harassed.
You say you are resetting. So reset.
So they shouldn't think that they alone have some. I was really harassed.
That's unfortunate.
I was finally, as a lawyer, I was finally summoned. A court warrant was issued. Bail warrant was issued for my arrest, and I had to enter the dock for the judge to now hand me over to the police. Hey, what are they talking about? But Dzifa, there is some level of deliberateness and intentionality in what we are seeing today. It's a culmination of prudential policies, expenditure, and outcomes. But MPP or our detractors are failing, refusing, and neglecting to recognize that. Look, when Atufoso went to Parliament, the 2025 budget, he went with a guiding principle. And let me share it with you. Many people have missed that guiding principle. He stated, the state of the economy of Ghana is troubling. It will require some sacrifices, truthfulness, transparency, and discipline to fix it. This was the guiding principle he stated. And that is what we are seeing today in this country. Yes, foreign exchange volatility affects planning. Businessmen, all of us who were into some form of businesses while in opposition, were robbed of our ability to plan. Because you go to buy fuel, and the whole 225 liters of fuel, which is a drum, at the beginning of 2017 was 1,500 Ghana cedis. By 2022, it was 3,400, 3,500. Inflation had run to 54%. And Solomon, it is not only when cities are chasing dollars that depreciates our currency. It is also when the money supply, the cedi supply in the system is just too much that the cedi itself loses the value. And that's what we saw. Why do you think that the activities of the governor of the central bank threw about 1 million people into poverty? The 1 million people did not require dollars. The purchase price parity had simply fallen, and the amount of money that they had sitting in their accounts had lost value. just because of the money supply. So, John Dramani Mahama, in campaigning to be president, said, look, it was important and time enough to reset the country. And the reset is what she has spoken about. And we'll come to it, the floods. And I see that this reset agenda is even animating some of these assemblies already. Because I was pleasantly surprised when I was moving along the Newtown Road and seeing some activities going on. I may have lived in Newtown for God knows how many years. It was only yesterday that I saw that something was happening. Let's pray that it continues. But what was the status quo before NDC took over? The status quo was that the MPP government was running a gold for oil policy. So gold was in the metrics, not so, but the gold was for oil. But what we didn't know was the policy that informed that activity. And Solomon has alluded to it. Up to now, nobody knows the amount of money that this country used to buy the gold. And what was the quantity of oil that we got in return. Up to now that we're speaking. Nobody knows. Now, nobody knows how the person, the third party, who was constituted to take our gold, take it abroad, sell, and procure us the oil, how he was selected. Nobody knows. Was he also part of the state capture? Most likely. But everybody knows that even with the gold for oil policy running, our cedi was trading at between 16 and 17 cedis to the dollar. So that could not have been the basis for a reduction or an increase in the value of the cedi in 2025. Now, we also knew that they were running gold for reserves, where they got about 30 tons of gold, and that gold is sitting in the Bank of England. Solomon says he doesn't agree with the gold sitting in the Bank of England, but that is what it is. So they bought the reserves, but that reserves is still there. We have since added about 1 kilo to it, 1 ton to it, but that reserves is still there. That reserves only serves to assure our creditors that if push comes to shove, we have money in store. That reserve cannot be the basis for the reduction, for the increase in value of the cedi. Now, when they were doing these two programs, gold for oil, gold for reserves, between 2022 and 2023, Ghana could not account for $1.7 billion worth of gold exported out of this country. So again, we were not getting full value for these policies. And the records are there. I'm not dreaming it up. The records are there. If you just go, if you want, if you can even Google. Recently, Mohammed Ibn Chambers speaking at a program referred to the loss of Ghana's gold. Now, the strengthening of the cedi has shaved off, just like my hair has shaved off. And you also have the same head like mine. 172 billion Ghana cedis from our debt. 172 billion, just by increasing the cedi gaining in weight. When you reconfigure our debt, we've gained. So it means that those who have been trading in cedis within the country are gaining. Your cedi, if you had cedis and it was in the bank, you had bought treasury bills, your cedi is still the value and the amount is still the same. No, the amount is still the same, but the value has automatically increased for you. It also means that public sector workers are gaining because they are paid in cedis. There have not been increases in their salary, but what they can now use their salary to acquire in terms of goods and services is more. That's what it means. So benefits are coming. Immediate benefits you can see on the screens of oil marketing companies. Immediate, because they buy their crude with dollars, and the dollar has now diminished in value. So we are gaining. They are passing it on to us. So there are gains, but there are also losses. Those who exported their goods bought goods here and exported to Europe and other places in dollars will lose substantial amounts. Will lose because they will be paid back in dollars, and the dollars cannot get them the cedis that they use to purchase those goods to export. Also, spare parts workers might not be able to immediately reduce prices because they brought in the goods at a certain cedi rate. But because they have the goods, price volatility is sticky. So at that point, they will want to recover as much as possible. But I'm sure if the trend, and Mr. Kwesi always says it, if the trend continues, then they will be forced to reduce the price. So we must continue with the policy of the cedi gaining value amid balancing. And this I borrowed from Mr. Kwesi, balancing. Now, the issue is this. So when NDC came into office, the stability of the currency was a key major headache. How do we stabilize the policy, the currency? Because businessmen, when John Dramani Mahama was campaigning to be president, remember? He met all business associations. He met traders in the markets. And their major concern was the volatility, the increasing and consistent weakness of the cedi that was hampering their business activities. Now, even in opposition, we thought that the best way to deal with the cedi is to take control of our natural resources. Because when you have natural resources, you export those natural resources and you receive dollars for the natural resources. And so you will have enough of the dollars to go around. And that is where Solomon said, the demand for the dollars will be managed in such a way that dollars will be available. And so far, about $500 million have been put in the system through auction to stabilize the cedi. And then we said, so every country has the sole preserve of determining how they want to treat their natural resources. That's why Burkina Faso, they decided that they will sell, or in Niger, they will sell uranium to France. And they want it, if France wants to buy, France must buy it like any other country. And they want their uranium sold at competitive prices. Because it's their natural resource. That is why Burkina Faso is saying that the agricultural resource of tomatoes, they are no longer going to allow people to come into their country and buy their tomatoes. They want to convert, add value to their tomatoes and calm them. So if you go to buy, you can only buy processed tomatoes because they want to reduce poverty in Burkina Faso. It's their sole right. In Ghana here, we are also determined that in the small scale and artisanal mining sector, government wants to have the sole right and authority to trade in that sector. You can call it monopolistic or whatever name you want to give to it. Ghana is now exercising the right of domain in that sector. If you want gold, go to the gold board. You will get gold. If you have partners in India and they want gold, go to the gold board. You will get the gold. But your partners must first pay the money to a designated account at Bank of Ghana in dollars. And then we will use cedis to do what? To buy the gold and supply. So we can account for the gold that we supply and minimize the smuggling and leakages. And so far, Gold Board, just in the few months of existence, have raked in about $2 billion. And the situation can only continue. So there has been an institutional change to the way we dealt with our gold. It's no longer a free for all. It's no longer a matter where people can come in and buy. Our dollars will no longer, our money, our gold will remain accounted for as much as possible. We have taken control of our resources, particularly gold. If this is not a policy, tell me what that is. And it's a policy with marked departure from the policies introduced by the MPP. Now, to do this, we've even given this policy legal backing. The first act of parliament to be passed by this current 9th parliament is the Gold Board. Apart from passing the Appropriation Act and all those, but that is for the budget. The first one, and reduce and then amending the laws to remove e-levy and others. The first major act, let me put it that way, of Parliament is the establishment of the Gold Board. And we had free education up to now. There's no law backing it. There's no law. It's a major policy. It was a flagship. Yeah, you said we shouldn't touch the one district, one factory thing. What's a policy? There's no law backing it. One district, one dam. It's a policy. There's no law backing it. But when we decided that we will initiate a policy, we backed it with legislation. Someone will ask, but why you couldn't have done that without legislation? But there was an existent PNMC. It was an act. But this current Gold Board Act is significantly different. We've also said in that act that all the large-scale mining, and this is to satisfy nationalists in this country, all the large mining companies, we will, at any time that we choose, exercise a preemption right over the royalties that we are entitled to in the form of gold. You know what that means? We will no longer wait for them to go and sell the gold and give us the dollars or the cedis. We can take that royalties in the form of what? Gold. It's there in the act. So there clearly is a point. So Gold Board is a game changer. Yes, confidence. The fact that things are being done differently is inspiring confidence in the international market. Things are being done differently. John Dramani Mahama said, look, I'm going to cut down on recklessness. I don't think that this country needs too many ministers. In the first term of Nana Akufo-Addo, he justified 128 ministers. It came down to 88. John Dramani Mahama says, oh no, I'm going to deal with 60. We won overwhelmingly. Pressure was brought to bear on him to increase and violate his own oath and promise to the people of this country. He said, no, I'm going to work and stick with 60 ministers. As we speak, there are still 4 ministers to be appointed. In fact, some of us went and argued that when he was saying he will work with ministers, ministers are not deputy ministers. And so he can find his way around and said, look, ministers, by the Constitution, ministers are not deputy ministers. He said, no. You see, we must restore integrity to the political process and political system. When I said ministers, I meant ministers including deputy ministers, so I'm sticking to that. This is integrity. And the whole world is watching our partners are watching, and they are seeing that these are clear signs of a prudent government, a government that has credibility, that is willing to reset the system, a government that is not going to be reckless in the expenditure. And you hear people say, the city is stabilizing because we are not spending. How do we spend in this country? We are under a military regime that doesn't require the preparation of a budget. Even under military regimes, we have budgets. Kosibucho used to read a lot of budgets in this country. In this our fourth republic, the only time that government spends, and this government of the NDC will spend by budget. And we are past the budget. And we are spending by the budget. Or they want us to do what Nana Akufo-Addo's government used to do. Spend out of budget. They say that they want X amount of money. And when they are given the budget returns, you see that they have spent X plus. And when you ask them, they said, well, they couldn't come to, and that you can X factor rectification of that expenditure. No, we are not doing that. Again, that shows that we are sticking to the budget, and that goes to show the prudence in the system. Why is the cedi further dropping? We are doing inflation anchoring. So far, the Bank of Ghana has withdrawn from the system 72.8 billion Ghana cedis. Withdrawn from the system. So the monies that they printed and was going around, and we heard that some were kept in warehouses and whatnot, the bank is withdrawing. So that's part of the monetary policy. That's why the prime rate is still at 28%. They were withdrawing. The cash reserve ratio has also been increased. So if you have cash in excess of a certain amount in your bank, you have to return the excess to the Bank of Ghana. All in an attempt to reduce the quantity of money supply in the system that works to reduce the value of our city. That is a policy. Atu Folsom is saying, look, this government will only spend in productive areas, in growth areas, areas that will bring some level of productivity. So Solomon says he's interested now in Nkiti. It's a growth area. It's an area that will stabilize our city. Because if we're able to do that policy and do it well, we will no longer be importing chicken from Brazil. If we are able to feed Ghana well, we will no longer be importing rice from Vietnam. And when you import chicken from Brazil, you are exporting labor. Because Brazilians will have to employ more people to produce the chicken because there's a market in Ghana. So when you create the market here, you retain your labor and you retain your dollars. So you spend it, but you go to spend in productive areas. That is why you see a policy congruence. The fiscal and monetary policy converging to produce the results that we are doing, aided by the Gold Board. Under the MPP, didn't we see policy dissonance? The Bank of Ghana, Addison himself at a point had to complain that the finance minister was not helping the Bank of Ghana to deal with the volatility of the city. The Bank of Ghana himself, that showed you that there was policy dissonance. And while everybody was struggling about the dollar and complaining about the dollar, Nana Akufo-Addo was interested in pursuing a personal project of building a cathedral. So why wouldn't the city fall? But we are not doing that under the NDC. We just think that we must stay true to the values that we said our president had, and make sure that we deliver that to the people of Ghana. Because of what is happening, inflation anchoring, you see that inflation is dropping. Producer price inflation has now dropped to 18% and will continue to drop. The target is, as the cedi is gaining weight, inflation must drop to single digits. so that the real benefits can then move to the people. COVID, they said COVID was the why they couldn't rein in the city. But COVID brought them more than $3 billion. And the Auditor General's report tells us how not to be physically, financially prudent or physically prudent with the COVID levies that came. Because the COVID, like Bua said, the COVID report, Attorney General's, Accountant General's, is it the Auditor General's report on the utilization of the COVID funds clearly showed us how not to use public funds prudently. And so clearly they got resources but decided to be reckless with the use of those resources. Now, you see, in all these things, while we are pursuing this deliberate policy and we are intentional about it, we have met all the IMF benchmarks. That's why there are additional inflows of dollars in the system. And that communicates to the investor community that something positive is happening in this country. So, yes, there are exogenous factors. Trump is fighting his war, trade wars with the world, and so it's affecting the strength of the dollar. But it's affecting the strength of the dollar as it affects the dollar affects the Naira or the CFA or the Rand. And so if Ghana's cedi is performing well, as one of the best performing currencies in the world presently, there must be additional things that this government is doing to ensure, because that trade war is not limited to Ghana, it's everywhere. And so if Ghana's cedi is performing well, there are additional things, and these are the additional things that are working to ensure that we benefit. But clearly, we need to manage the system well. I know Mr. Kwesi Pratt, comrade, will speak about it, but we need to manage the system well, because there are clearly, there could be clearly issues going forward. We need to manage it well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alhaji. And on the update on the tariff war, Donald Trump now says that he would put a 50% tariff on the EU because they are not responding to him. They're trying to negotiate with them and they are not coming forward for negotiation. So they will get 50% now from 20%. Now, David Testing from the UK says the strengthening of the cedi is good news. However, it's good for local importers but not for persons who send or receive remittances. Until price of goods and services are dropped across the board to accommodate the disparity, Ghanaians who send remittances from abroad have to send even more now to make up the difference. I believe the government has to factor issues like this too while working on strengthening the cedi. There's a Sanko who sent this. Sanko says, the stock in trade of this group of politicians to frustrate any other government in power. They are very evil people. What didn't they do to Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's CPP government before collaborating with a foreign country to overthrow that government? Lawlessness is in their blood. They are engaging in this unnecessary and irresponsible litigation because they never considered the fact that no condition or position is permanent. They are days. As for the failed textbook economist, Dr. Baumia, the least said about him, the better. He is of no relevance so far as the economy is concerned. And that's coming from Asanko. Asanko, thank you very much for sending that. This one says, good morning, Mr. Ols. Please, which party in Ghana? Normal to say, okay, which party in Ghana normally says go to courts? MPP, NDC, CPP, PNC, LP. Today, same people tend to demo and petitions. We should all learn. If God gives you power, respect the opinions of your people who put you there. Send that from Nigeria. Thank you very much for that comment. This one is from Emmanuel in Pokwasi. Says it is very clear that those still speaking against the good works of the NDC and trying to interfere the praise to His Excellency JDM, we know at the MPP. On the other hand, I believe strongly that anyone or any group that disagrees in reducing what they sell are MPP and none other people but MPP supporters. Please, His Excellency JDM should not spare them if they still refuse to reduce the prices of what they sell. If they need to be forced, they should be forced to do so. Thank you very much for that comment. Then there's MPP will be in opposition for long. They claim that they started gold reserve. That's why the city is not appreciating now. Who started the Galamsey and the Dumso? They were complaining that Ukraine-Russia war caused the depreciation of the cities on their regime. Now they said the NEC has no policy for the city appreciation, but rather trade war. I wish the trade war will continue like this so that Ghanaians can enjoy. Send that. He said his name is General Mosquito from Bolga. Thank you very much for sending the comment. There's Uncle Ben in Wamfie who says to Dr. Baumia's question that the NDC should show him one policy that has contributed to appreciation of the city. He should also tell us one policy that he made or didn't make that contributed to the free fall of the city during his 8-year term as the head of the AMT. The current strength of the city is making some people very uncomfortable because it is exposing the false and the genuine economists we have in this country. Uncle Ben sent that. Some more comments. This one says, good morning. Why are we wasting our precious time to talk about MPP at this time? We must understand that when the situation was handled to be dealt with, we brought back JM to help. We thank God for our efforts that led to the dethroning of that wicked government of the MPP. We should keep our focus on building our country and leave those Baomia. We are moving forward with the spirit of unity and love for God and our country. Thank you for that comment. Please take your time and write the messages. I'm reading as we go along, so it's difficult. I don't have time to edit it, so take your time and put them together. Says, I think Baumia should stop making noise and give President Mahama GM a chance to fulfill his promises. Dollar depreciation, MPP has no hand in it. Okay, thank you very much for that comment. If I struggle with your comment, what you're sending, then I have to jump it and move to the next one. Mr. Pratt, please kindly conclude for us on this one.
Well, I mean, my first observation is that you take any subject, you take any development in our country today, and you find a lot more theater than substance, and I'm worried. I am very, very deeply worried because our approach to the economy, our approach to everything is not science-based, you know. And because of this attitude, everything has been reduced to useless propaganda. Now, no country develops on the basis of propaganda. Nothing thrives on the basis of theater, how to attract attention, you know, how to be on social media and so on. You don't develop that way. You only make advances on the basis of the understanding of science and the application of science. And that is what is lacking in this debate. I mean, listen, first of all, let's take Gideon, what is the name?
Buaku.
Gideon Buaku and Alhaji Mahmoud Baumia. Not long ago, Alhaji Baumia told us that whilst he was still vice president, he heard petroleum price increases on radio, and it stunned him. He was shocked. He claimed that 3 days to the elections, he heard of petroleum price increases, and he was so shocked, and he couldn't believe how any government could have done that 3 days to an election. So clearly, this is the extent of his involvement in shaping economic policy. Clearly, he's telling us that he was not even involved in the management of the economy. These are not my words. I mean, this is Alhaji Baumia himself speaking on his thank you tour. Now, it is the same Alhaji Mahmoud Baumia who came to us and said, look, the e-levy was a very bad policy. It imposed hardships on the people of Ghana. And that his government did it to its own detriment. It was one of the reasons why they lost the elections. So what was his involvement in shaping policy and implementing policy? None whatsoever. You understand? And I can go on and list many other things that he disassociates himself from, even as he was vice president of the Akufo-Addo government. So for anybody today to come to us and say that something is happening because of Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia's thinking, influence, and so on in economic management, it's insulting. He was either involved in managing the economy or he was not. He could not be involved in managing the economy and at the same time not involved in managing the economy. It simply doesn't make sense. And when people speak in public, one of the things that they have to do is to try very hard to make some sense. Okay? And I'm finding that lacking. Now, again, the movement of the value of currency is something that anybody with a first-year secondary school understanding of economics knows. That is determined by many factors, not one factor. There are so many factors that determine the value of a currency. So anybody looking us in the face and saying that one factor is responsible is ignorant. It's not applying the science of economics. There's so many factors, you can count them, so many factors that influence the rise or fall in the value of a currency. And in this particular instance, there are so many factors, not one. Who can look us in the face and say that the tariff war that Donald Trump started has not contributed to the stability of or the fall in the value of the dollar? Who can say that? Nobody. You know, unless you're unscientific. But it has. And when you say this, sometimes they look you in the face and say, but what about the Naira? What about the... You see, the Naira is not appreciating because in addition to the tariff war, there are other factors which are affecting the Naira. Okay? Just happens that in the Ghanaian situation, many of the factors affecting the value of our cedi have come together at the same time. So we must understand that. Listen, in our case, in the last 4.5 months, our gold reserves have increased by what I'm told, about $2.6 billion. That's a factor. That's a factor, okay? Which adds up to the tariff war which Donald Trump initiated, the effects of the tariff war which Donald Trump initiated, okay? Now, what is happening is also the result of speculation. And let me explain why it's the result of speculation. Today, people who hoard dollars are running to get rid of the dollars. So all the people who were told who had dollars under their beds and so on are getting rid of the dollars. That itself is contributing to the appreciation of the value of the cedi. Because they are selling their dollars for cedis at huge quantities. You understand? And that is why, look, the way the value of the dollar is dropping sometimes surprises speculators. Yesterday I'm told it was at 10 cedis, 10.6 or so. Rapid. It's surprising, you understand? So we can count many factors. The governor of the Bank of Ghana also gave his own version of why the cedi is appreciating in value and so on. I think he's right, because you have to combine all the different factors in order to determine the cost effects and so on. Now, there is something else. There appears to be general jubilation in NDC circles, and some worry in some quarters as well. You see, the jubilation has to be tempered. It has to be tempered, one, because the behavior of the cedi has different impacts on different sectors of the economy. And that's why you have to temper your jubilation. You see, for importers, this is a huge bonanza, even not for now, but for the future. If you're an importer of petroleum products and so on, it's an immediate bonanza. But if you're not an importer of petroleum products, and you're an importer of goods that you stock over 5 years and so on, it is not an immediate bonanza. Okay. For exporters, it's a disaster. For exporters, because you get a smaller amount of cedis for what you exported last year than you are getting today. So for importers, it's a disaster. So the effects vary from sector to sector, and we need to understand that. Okay. Now, for me, what we need to do now is an analysis of the Ghanaian economy for us to determine the kind of economy we want to build. Do we want to build an export-led economy? Or do we want to continue an import-led economy? Whatever choices we make would inform how to manage the national currency. Whatever choices we make. Okay? And we should stop this pedestrian cheer-mongering attitude. It doesn't help anybody. Okay? So, first of all, let us determine the kind of economy we want to build. Now, if we determine the kind of economy we want to build, then we can decide how to manage our currency to respond to the economic model that we want to build. We haven't done that. We are cheer-mongering and so on in absolute foolishness. And that's the truth. Now, Sana, there's something else which is very, very important for me when it comes to this question of currency management. The most important thing is that every economy which is sustainable has to be predictable. There has to be some predictability about the economy. So you've got to be able to say, and stability. Okay? So if the cedi is rising and falling and so on, it's bad for the economy. What we need is stability. And we didn't get that stability under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's government. That was the main problem. They moved the cedi from 3.4 to 3.5 to 17 cities in 8 years. And its impact on the economy was harrowing and so on. It was a big problem. Okay? So, what we're doing, where is the stability? I don't see the stability. Because in a period of 3 months, we have moved from 17 cedis to $1, way down to, let's say, 11 cedis to $1. And it is continuing. And the market itself is so confused. Now, yesterday, the governor of the Bank of Ghana held the normal press conference, the monetary policy review press conference and so on. And his prediction, the Bank of Ghana's prediction, was that we'll be closing the year at a cedi exchange rate of about 11 to $1. That was yesterday. Okay. Now that means that it's going to rise again. Because we are 10.6. So if we're going to go to 11, it means that we're going to rise again. And that is the end of year prediction. What about after that? Would it rise or would it fall? We don't know yet. But this is the Bank of Ghana. Now, Senator, listen very carefully. I think it was on Tuesday. FITS also published their prediction. The FITS prediction is that by the close of year, the value of the cedi will be 14 cedis to $1. Another indication of a rise. A rise of the dollar's value and a fall in the cedi's value. Okay? So if you're looking at this, and there are many other predictions. In fact, the predictions range from 11 to 15 cedis per dollar at the end of the year. So we are not stable yet. And we should be worried that we are not stable yet. You understand? That's one aspect. Master, there's something else that is also troubling. For me, it's not so much troubling. Okay. But for others, it should be very, very troubling. Both the National Democratic Congress and the New Patriotic Party tell us that they are running a market-oriented economy. Okay? They say that they are not running a command economy. Is that not what they tell us?
Yes.
Both parties. So what is happening? All this pressure on traders to announce decreases in prices and so on, where is it coming from? When we are running away from the command economy, you give instructions to traders to increase or decrease their prices. What's this nonsense? What's this out of character behavior? I don't believe that market forces should determine anything in our country. I believe in central planning. I believe that we are giving a mandate to a government to control our destiny. And controlling our destiny implies that that government must put its foot down and take measures to control prices, take measures to control everything, and so on. That's my belief. I believe in central planning. But for political parties which claim that they believe in a market-controlled economy, why are they complaining about prices? Shut up! If the trader goes into the market and he cannot sell rice at 10 cedis because others are selling at 7 cedis, he will sell at 7 cedis. If the trader goes to the market and everybody is selling at 11 cedis, the trader will be mad to continue to sell at 7 cedis because he's losing money and so on. You understand? So if you believe in the market economy, let the market decide prices and stop this attempt to superimpose a command economy, a centrally planned economy, on a market economy platform. It doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't make any sense at all. Okay? Now, let's be practical. Let's calm down. Forget the terms and so on. Let's calm down. Let's come to what they call black stars. Is that not how they call it? Let's come to that. The goods on the market today, at what rate were they imported? Most of the goods were imported 1 year ago, some 2 years ago, some 3 years ago. Some of them were imported at 16 cedis to $1, some of them at 14 cedis to $1, and so on. If the exchange rate has changed, how do you force traders to use the exchange rate today when the goods were not brought in at today's exchange rate? Doesn't make sense. It doesn't. You understand? So, look, I want us to begin to look at these things applying science. In this instance, the science of economics, rather than passion and political propaganda, which doesn't help anybody. It is obvious that there are some people in the New Patriotic Party who have sworn that come rain or shine, their presidential candidate for the 2028 elections is Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And they're trying everything possible to justify why Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia should be their presidential candidate. Unfortunately for them, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is not helping himself. And his campaigners are killing him. You see, I heard him speak in London, and I was very sad. He says that, look, he's convinced that in 2028, the NPP will win the elections. And that the NPP will win the elections because he has studied Ghana's elections. And that first-timers don't win elections. You have to lose, go back, and come again to win the elections. I said, my God. Jesus Christ of Nazareth, what is happening here? I mean, what an insult to those who voted against the New Patriotic Party. That the people of Ghana are so stupid, they don't know what they're about. They only voted for John Dramani Mahama because it was the first time Mahmoud Bawumia was coming onto the scene. Hey, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia Alhaji Timothy, why? Why this insult? Look, how many candidates were there in that election? This thing he describes about first timers and second timers and so on. In that election, there was this priest. What is his name? Let's take LGP.
LPG.
Apalu, yeah. How many times hasn't he contested elections for this country? Did the people of Ghana vote for him? He has come again and come again and come again and come again. He was rejected. So it doesn't explain the electoral behavior of Ghanaians. Okay? It doesn't explain the electoral behavior of Ghanaians. How does that explain how John Dramani Mahama lost elections in 2016? It doesn't. So this is some voodoo analysis. Thank you, my brother. Voodoo analysis. This is analysis made in Benin. Analysis from a shrine in Benin. Voodoo analysis. And I couldn't believe it. So his whole confidence about winning the elections is because it will be his second time contesting elections as presidential candidate. So policies don't matter. So if policies don't matter, why are they worrying us about how his goal for oil has improved the cedi? It doesn't matter. It will be his second time. He will win automatically. So stop wasting our years. Stop wasting our years. In any case, the 2028 elections will be won or lost also on the basis of who has superior organization. And what is happening in the New Patriotic Party does not convince me that in the next 3 years, that party can become a viable party capable of winning any elections in our country. And you know why I'm saying this? Look, forget about the fighting in the thank you tour and so on and so forth. So far, when you listen to the leading spokesman of this party, what impression do you get? I mean, last night, I was watching late night television, and the chief communicator of the party was on TV3. And what he was saying was mind-boggling. This is a guy who was saying that, look, the NDC must not make the mistake of thinking that because the NPP lost elections, it is a small party. And that the NPP still has numbers, which it can deploy, whether the government is right or wrong. Charlie, that whether the government is right or wrong, they have numbers to mobilize to disrupt government. Is this a responsible talk? I thought that you mobilize against something which is wrong. You know, but we are now being told that whether they are right or wrong, we are going to mobilize against them. We are not a small party. We have numbers. You see, they should be careful. Some of these statements actually tell the people who they are, the intentions behind what they do, and so on. It's clear.